Hey guys, and welcome to a special episode of Michis Esport Diaries. Guys, today we're going to talk about the questions of all questions. How sim racing relates to real racing. How does sim racing actually compare to the racing in real life, in reality? And I am obviously no expert just yet. I've just done a 24-hour karting race with all its physical challenges, with all its mental challenges. And I've not yet obviously driven, a GT car, yet alone open wheeler. Something that David Mrožek, our former Burst Esport colleague, has enjoyed though in Portland in the meanwhile as well. Remember, he is the currently reigning Formula E Accelerate champion, and part of the prize, a part of the top three prizes was they were allowed to show run in the Formula E Gen 3 car. That is what it was. And he was in Portland while I was in Viborg, and we were sharing our thoughts and sharing our impressions about sitting in the real race car for the very first time, or generally being in reality when it comes to racing environment. And I think our thoughts have been pretty much the same. Obviously, kind of differences left, right, and center, very small ones, but generally we could agree, and I think that is what this video is going to be about. So, whenever we're talking about sim racing, or whenever I turn up somewhere here in the public, being out with a girlfriend somewhere, meeting friends, meeting new people, and being asked like, what was the hobby? And I then come around with the sim racing stuff and the esport, and that, that we're just working as professional, as a real Formula One team would work. Like, we're doing social media appearances, we have track engineers, we analyze Motec and telemetry, we have race engineers, we do race simulations, we find, we dive deep into the cars, deep into the files, and we go for every little inch, every little thousands of improvement that we can find, and we could try and attach it to the car. Also, we attach it to the rig in terms of having dashboards and third-party stuff that is assisting you with visualization. And we are keeping fit. We're doing the practices. We're having streams. So that is just, I'd say, the craziness about sim racing, like the level of detail, the level of love we're all putting in. So sim racing, in a way, when we're speaking about racing, the aspect that the preparation for racing, I would even say sim racing goes beyond what is possible in reality anyway, in the first place. Not even speaking about the physical term, but generally speaking. You guys remember Le Mans Virtual Series 2020, where I had a very late call for the IDEX Sports car in 2020 for the very first episode of the race. And like the day before, I just loaded up the car, the LMP2 runner, the Orica 07. I put it out on a brickyard in Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And I was, playing with the brake ducts, engine cooling, and so on, trying to maximize the top speed, and then compare it and apply the new intelligence on the car for Le Mans, which has given us a kph of straight line speed advantage after all, which was a huge key element for our P10 that we scored in the end. So obviously you can't do that in real life, being at Le Mans and saying, okay, we take this brake duct, send the car out, this brake out, send the car out, or even send it out somewhere abroad. It's just not happening, besides physical issues or physical things that you would have need to overcome. It's also a budget thing, and the list is endless as in why this is not possible. However, this is where I'd say the sim racing part is digging even deeper than reality ever tries to, or ever would be able to. Pretty sure that some F1 teams would surely try everything to gain more advantage or more performance, that's for sure. Anyway, coming back onto the topic, this is where I see sim racing a little bit compared to real racing. But now there comes the other side, the side of the real racing that we do not have in sim racing, which is the G-forces, the actual fear sitting in the car and being like, hey, if I go off of that speed into the wall, I might gonna die here. The forces that we do not feel in our body sitting tight in our sim rig without motion, obviously. It's about those things in reality. Material fatigue, material failure, technical issues, all that kind of engineering stuff that simply doesn't go wrong on a sim. Yes, of course, your steering wheel or your sim rig, something can fail, your PC can blue screen, whatever, but those are, together with the internet connection and the software issue, that is literally the only thing that can go wrong in sim racing. In real racing, we've seen everything. In the 24-hour karting race that we did, we had engine failure, actually dual engine failure, issues with the fuel pipe. I saw on some car the wheel was coming off. Chassis could have broke. Tires could have been punctured. Something that might actually be possible in the sim, but still. Engine failure, like there are certain ways where you can estimate when an engine is going to fail in most of the sims, if it's a thing. In reality, you can't estimate it really. And when you're out there with a kart, you have no telemetry, you can't guess how the engine is doing. You need a sense of feel it in the car. You need to listen to that engine and be like, yeah, I should probably lift off a tad earlier just to make it feel more comfortable. And that is a real life component that I think you need to learn as a sim racer coming towards it. Jesper was coming to me and like, yeah, look, we're now 13 hours into the race, into turn one, we now start a lift early. We don't have a concern on the engine, but it's just a precautionary action. So you get into the car, and this is where the similarities appear, and you do nothing else than in the sim. In the sim, you would only lift for fuel saving reasons, sometimes also for the engine, but mainly for fuel saving reasons. That fuel saving is not a topic in the car. Might be a topic in other cars, like Formula E, there it's all about fuel saving, nothing else literally. So the challenges are different in real life, obviously. However, the similarities, so lifting into turn one, you just do it. Then on the karting rate itself, the track was extremely rigid. The curbs extremely steep, all rattled. Like, just looking at the curbs, that wasn't like really a comfortable feeling looking at them at all, being like, oof, this is where I want to rumble over, like, sure not. And this is how we drove the kart as well. Like, we said, okay, listen, like, the kart can withstand a couple of impacts and a couple of forces and whatnot, but hey, we're trying to stay off that curbs, period. And you just try doing that. Sometimes, obviously, you brush it with a tire. Sometimes you accidentally mount it because you have to get out of people's way. These things can happen, but they are calculated in. It is something different when you're doing 2,700 laps of trying to avoid it, or whether you do 2,700 laps and like, yeah, if I can't avoid it, then whatever. And this is like a total different approach. There's still going to be 100 or maybe 150 laps where the team entirely has hit a big curb somewhere on the track. But the chassis might take 500 hits, so 150 is not an issue. But if you do it over 2,700 laps, you might find yourself with a DNF after half of the race. So that is something I wanted to speak about similarities. That's not a similarity in the sim. You can mount the curb, you mount the curb, period. You can't mount the curb, you either try and find ways to change the setup so you can mount the curb. And in worst case, it is RNG if you can mount the curb. I mean, sometimes you can hit it, sometimes you cannot. It is absolutely random whether you do it. You're probably going to mount it everywhere anyway, because the 50% of time where it's just pitch perfect, it's just so much quicker. So this is how sim racing works. But this is not what you can do in the real life, for sure, like as we've just spoken about it. So finally, the similarities though. You guys know that we have done Le Mans Virtual Series, we've done Virtual Endurance Championship, we have done some sort of multi-class racing. And we've spoken about that a couple of times when I mourned about traffic, when I was speaking about overtaking techniques in the slower class cars and the traffic. And this is what applies 100% between sim racing and real racing. It's like the anticipation of the traffic around you. You do nothing different. It is absolutely the same with one single kart-specific difference, I guess. Karts do not have mirrors, so you need to like turn around all the time to see whether there's traffic coming your way when being in the middle class. Thankfully, that hasn't been the topic too much. But generally speaking, you anticipate the slower cars around you. You also anticipate the faster cars around you. You're seeing like, oh, there's this fast guy coming, and oh, I'm in a fight. I rather let him leave pass me right here, right now, like lift off, lose maybe 2 or 3 tenths, but having a more comfortable run through the tight cornery section and being in my rhythm. So that anticipation, or the anticipation of like you have a slower card ahead of you. So also the cornery section where you're pushing a lot. That means a lot of force on the body, a lot of force for the card, a lot of energy draining activities for yourself. And you're like, okay, you know what? I can't overtake him here in the Mickey Mouse section anyway. I take it a little easy in the Mickey Mouse section, get a massive run on him out of the final turn, overtake on the straight, job done. Those anticipations, these kind of thoughts, they happen. They happen just so naturally. You don't think about it. Like you see a card ahead of you that's coming your way, you're quickly thinking, is it faster class, is it slower class car, is it the same class card? And then you just apply what you know doing best when it comes to traffic and traffic management. And this is where I had a conversation with Alex Siebel beforehand. And he was like, you'll see, you got to jump into the cart and it's nothing else than VEC. Like 2 or 3 laps until you realize, okay, this is real, you're sitting in a real cart. This is how it goes. But apart from that, everything is same. Apart from that, everything feels... What you do in the car is exactly the same thing that you would do in the sim, 100%, and that's exactly how it is. And that is a very interesting thing in itself, and we're gonna see that in a moment because I have some evidence here that will show you the similarities between sim racing and real racing are absolutely valid. Something that is obviously different is the physical impact as such. Karting is prone to be the most pure racing experience that you can have. You don't have seat belts. You need to fix yourself into the seat. You need to make sure to keep seated at all times. This is usually not that big of an issue, but just saying, it's not like in a GT3 car where you're like, oh, I'm off the grass and I brace for impact and then just wait until the 6-point seat belt is taking up all the forces. Not saying that crashing is nice in the first place or that this doesn't hurt. That's not what I want to say. But it's a different thing if you're going down the road with 80, 85 kilometers an hour and know exactly, like, if you're hitting something very solid right now, straight ahead, like, you're going to go fly. That is something that you need to deal with as well. So I started my first laps, low 32s. And on a 30-second lap, low 32s is like ages too slow. It's incredibly slow. But it took me like 7, 8, 9, 10 laps to get into the rhythm, to learn the track, find the braking points, find the fastest line around there. Obviously, I've had a little bit of a briefing and onboard videos from Jesper from last year. But still, as a matter of fact, I come to a karting racetrack, not only going to do my first ever kart race, of course, also learning a brand new track, something that I've never driven on before. And at the end of the day, it's like you're just applying your techniques, the trail braking, the slow in, fast out, picking the line. You start to sense and feel the kart. And this is also a similarity as an opposite to real racing. Like I keep saying, obviously in the sim, you see the car with your eyes or hear the car with your ears, but you feel the car with your ears and you touch it with your eyes as well. There's something that you don't do in the real life, because in the real life you're actually touching it, and your body and the G-forces and the feedback that comes from the entire chassis goes back into the backbone, and that you don't have that in sim racing. And this is like where our senses, where I think all the esport people senses are extremely trained and extremely focused and sensible for the ever so slightly feeling. This is probably one of the main reasons why I kind of turn a bit sick in an airplane, because the airplane is doing different movements than a car, and like all my senses are saying, well, oh, I need to counter steer that, but the pilot is doing nothing. So he's just going straight. Turbulences, I don't care. We just fly straight, and this is totally fine. Once again, it's just like what my senses would be feeling, telling me, looking at how the airplane is shaking, looking at how I feel in that airplane, getting, that little bit of, sometimes you feel it a bit drifting. It's just, for me, it's a not very nice situation at all. But I think those senses that we do have, they are extremely sensible to such movements and to such effects. So what is definitely lacking in the sim is the way you can feel and the feedback from the car itself. Like all the sliding that you do, all the corrections, they just happen naturally. Like you feel the rears going a bit around, like, oh, maybe I should probably turn a little more, a little less, either way. You just do it, you don't actively think about it. So what you actually do in the sim, when you like see or hear that the car's going sideways, you just apply the very same thing. And there's less force feedback on the steering wheel, that's for sure. There's also different force feedback on the steering wheel. But at the end of the day, it is such a natural thing that we have in sim racing already, if you're playing the right sim, obviously, that it transfers 95%, slow brain, 95% to the reality. The only 5% that we do not have is the fear of crashing, the actual feel on the body, and most importantly, G-forces. That was like, I think in the end of the third stint of my race, turn one, almost flat out. It's like you turn in and slowly your head was going that way, and it's like you just turn in and hope to exit on the exit curb, which fortunately I did all the time. But this physical exhaustion that you feel and that you kind of need to work around when it comes to being in an infight, mentally being able to up to the task, that is something that is the absolute biggest difference to sim racing. The racing technique, the driving technique, the thinking in the car, the positioning, even the mental games, or the mentality behind it when being in a fight, when fighting for position, is absolutely the same. And that is a very, very interesting and intriguing thing. And I have, as I mentioned, finally, I have some evidence up here. So what you can see here on the screen is all the lap times of all our drivers in the kart. Big thank you to Alex Siebel for doing the analysis here. So if you're looking on the left hand side, there is all the lap times in chronological order from the stint. So as you can see, I've been in the car the 4th time, then the 10th time, then the, 16th time, and so on. So this was our driver schedule, always showing the performance of the driver in that hour. So as you can see, between hour 7, 8, 9, I think there was some rain. So those lap times have been slower, or have not even been on the map here. And then on the right hand side, you see each stint with the average time sorted is from the top. And there you see absolutely mental Papa Jesper. Guy has been quick. It's absolutely insane. The consistency and the speed of that guy in the kart has been simply amazing. And what you see next is that Alex Siebel also appears in the top third with his stinting performances. And he was mighty quick as well. Remember, he did that last year already. And for me, the positive thing to say, and the team was accusing me at some point of like fishing for compliments, but personally, I wasn't obviously too happy being in the lower third overall when it comes to those lap time comparisons. But effectively, I have not been the absolute slowest guy on the team. And I think that in itself is a bit remarkable. If you think about, I hardly do any karting whatsoever, like once a year, maybe twice a year. In fact, this time I haven't done it for 2 years in a row. And then this is not only just like 20 or 30 minutes of rental karting. This is a 24-hour race where you do 3 hours of karting in 24 hours, maybe even 4. And to then not be the slowest guy, despite you've kind of do it the first time, you've kind of never done it before really, just being a sim racer, I don't think that's too bad at all. And these guys are like professionals, semi-professionals, or ex-professionals. So it's not like it's a bunch of guys that are simply chilling around. It's effectively Alex and me. We were the only ones not turning up there in a racing suit. Everyone else had racing suit, proper equipment, own helmet. I mean, they're building. This was a championship, you know. They are obviously doing that for fun, but they are not like, okay, we do one 24-hour race and all our old careers appear reactive just for that one day. No, they have like a 10 race season where they are also working on the kart, setting up the kart, putting different gears and so on. So it's people that know how stuff is working. There's people. We had coaches on the team that do coaching in rental karting and so on. So, as I said, this is a bunch of professionals, and if you look close enough, you could actually say that we not only have been slowing them down. In fact, if you look at Alex in particular, we have surely helped them achieving the pace as a team and the pace on track as a whole. That is for sure, I guess. And like personally for me, I am happy that I haven't been like the slowest guys. I've mentioned it before. And I think it's just great coming there, using the sim racing experience that we do have in order to contribute to the team's success. Like, you know, fit in. We have been just such a homogeneous group, such a homogeneous pace with all the drivers involved. And I think that was just great to see. So yeah, after all, how does sim racing compare to the real racing? I think it does. I think it does big time. And again, I still have very, very limited experience as, you know, only doing a little bit of rental kart here and certainly not having a more racing experience as such. But again, the technique, the approach, the mental task is all the same. It's just the physical task on top of that that you need to anticipate and consider, which is making it really, really tricky and difficult. That is, I think, the biggest challenge when you're a sim race. And you know, we've seen that before with Gregor Hutu. He had the same issue. Like, the guy was quick in that Formula 3 test in I don't know, Finland or wherever that. Like, no, he is finished. I think they took him to Silverstone or whatever. But I think he only could like 5, 6, 7 laps in a row before he was like physically exhausted. And that was the very same thing with me on Friday. Then we adapted things, things got easier. And then for Saturday I was fine. And then obviously it was the expected body pain that was making things difficult. But guys, once again, as a total, it's just such a great experience, and I'm really, really happy that I have got that insight, that I also got the support, and everyone was having the trust. As we've seen on the sheets, on the analysis that Alex did. Also, it's not just that overall pace that was there; it's also the consistency that looked to be in the right window, and that is just great to see, because that just means that we have just done racing, like real racing. We would do the same in the sim. We've analyzed the same way as in the sim. And that was just like a big achievement of a lifetime, actually. Like it's really like I can tick a box, something really special, and who knows, maybe we're gonna sit more often in that kart. Anyway, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I know it's once again being a long one, but if you're still watching, guys, let me know down in the comments area below, what do you think? Have you made some experiences as well where you've been coming from sim racing to real racing? And how was it for you? Let me know about your thoughts, let me know about your experiences, and we'll take it from there. Guys, thank you for watching, and goodbye.